Hello and welcome to CNBC Africa's special broadcast of the panel session reflecting on Afreximbank's performance over the last 25 years as part of the bank's 25th anniversary and annual meetings. I am Christy Cole. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll have Ahmed Elsewedy, CEO, MD Elsewedy Company, Patricia Diaby, CEO, Plot Enterprise, Chairman, Vista Bank, Simon Tiemtore, Chairman, Ghana Stock Exchange Council, Albert Essien, and Noureddine Zekri, Director General, Maghreb Bank of Investment and Foreign Trade, all within a panel moderated by CNBC Africa's Wole Famurewa, illustrate how the bank has supported their development over the years as well as delivered on its core values.
This is really a celebration day, a day of reflection around what has happened over the last 25 years and what we can see moving forward. I wonder who wants to go first. Maybe I start with you, Mr. Essien, because you were in the Ecobank Group, so clearly you know a lot about the Afreximbank. You're now with the Ghana Stock Exchange, and I imagine that the Afreximbank, as we spoke earlier about their contribution to the development of the capital market, Strive gave a very useful example while he was speaking. What are your thoughts about the Afreximbank and where it is today?
Well, thank you very much, Wole. For most part of my career, I was with the Ecobank Group, and the Afreximbank served as a real catalyst for change, and especially trade finance on the continent. The Afreximbank was actually moving to areas where others will not go. You know, you say where eagles dare not to go. Afreximbank was there, and we did quite a lot with the Afreximbank in Zimbabwe, as Strive mentioned, in Zambia, Nigeria, Ghana, and a lot of other countries, Cape Verde and the rest. And they were always coming up with products that actually served the purpose of the countries in which we were. And these were actually, it ran into billions of dollars. And I've realized that my successor is also engaging them in the same field, and especially when it comes to payments of intra-Africa trade on the continent.
Yeah, but as the chairman of the Ghana Stock Exchange Council, where do you see the Afreximbank working with an institution like that?
I have come to learn that Afreximbank has an equity fund. They call FundFed, if I'm right. And I think as I was listening to participants this morning and this afternoon, you realize that there's a lot of talk about what Afreximbank can do for the small and medium-scale enterprises. One of the biggest headaches for small and medium-scale enterprises is equity finance. Okay, small and medium-scale enterprises need a venture capital, a link. That is something that is missing largely on the continent, because commercial banks, I always say, are not venture capital companies. So with the FundFed, I would want to see Afreximbank take equity positions in these companies, make sure that they get the right technical expertise and advice. Then with time, they should then offload on the stock exchanges. I mean, when you go to Ghana, they have the GAX, called the Ghana Alternative Exchange, and it's actually meant for small and medium-scale enterprises.
Right.
So that's what I see them doing.
Okay, thanks for that. Simon, you've worked at the Afreximbank, so you know it quite well. But tell us a bit about Lilium Capital and how you potentially are working with the Afreximbank.
Thank you. Thank you, Wole, for having me here. Yes, I did. Of course, I mean, I was at Afreximbank, heading up the advisory services and the debt capital market. So now sitting as a client from Afreximbank, not from a Lilium Capital standpoint, but from our banking group, Vista Bank Group, which we are launching while celebrating the 25th anniversary of Afreximbank. Afrexim, as Albert mentioned, has been a catalyst. And I think Dr. Rama mentioned here earlier, there was some innovative product and solution that the bank put forth to enable trade. You know, they dematerialize the definition of trade to look at trade enabling activities and thereby providing finances to trade finance intermediaries such as banks, Vista Bank Group in Guinea, to provide financing to SMEs and to women banking and to other trade enabling activities where they're not, telco, oil and gas, power. So they are the catalysts of development today in Africa, and they have achieved that to trade finance intermediaries such as ourselves.
Right. Okay, let's get to Mr. Zekri. Your institution is quite new, so we certainly want more institutions like yours across the continent. Tell us about what you're doing and how you're working with the Afreximbank.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Orama for inviting me to this meeting. And I would like, first of all, to introduce our institution. It is a new institution. Actually, it is a client and customer to Afreximbank. So our institution is BMICE, is Banque Maghrébine d'Investissement et de Commerce Extérieur. In English, Maghreb Bank for Investment and Foreign Trade. It is created by the 5 states of Maghreb Union with equal equities, and its goal and its objectives is the same as Afreximbank, but it is in the region of Maghreb. Our mission is to improve and to increase relationships, trade relationships between the Maghrebian countries. Actually, what I learned today, mainly through the speech of Mr. Orama, because maybe we are in the same step as they were in the beginning, and he was saying that there was a lot of suspicion, a lot of doubts about the success of Afreximbank. I am really living the same step, but what Afreximbank reached and achieved so far, is a positive lesson for me and encouraged me to go ahead. How we cooperate with Afreximbank? We have the chance that we have a good cooperation with Afreximbank because we are going first to learn about their experience, and second, we would like to intensify and to increase our capacity to answer the numerous requests from Maghrebian companies, and of course we convened to have a data exchange, because now we are trying to develop, data on the Maghrebian market, on the Maghrebian companies, and we know that Afreximbank is a good source of information, and so we are going to cooperate together in order to also increase activities of Afreximbank in our region.
Right, so one Pan-African institution helping to develop a regional one. Let me come to you, Engineer Ahmed. So tell us about your experience, because your company, the Elsewedy Electric Company, I imagine, is another client of the Afreximbank. Tell us more about your experience.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to work with Afreximbank. First, I'd like to introduce our company. I'm Ahmed Elsewedy. I'm the CEO of the President of Elsewedy Electric. We are a company mainly focusing on the electricity and infrastructure all over Europe, Africa, and the Gulf. We work we export over 120 countries worldwide, and we have operations over 50 countries. Around 15,000 employees, mainly working in electricity, water, recycling, desalination water, and all these things. And manufacturing other things. Really, we have been working in Africa and since now almost over 20 years. We are honored to work in Africa. And of course, I'm from Egypt, so also I'm African. We believe in Africa very much and believe in the growth in Africa for the next 50 years. And Afreximbank is really working with us on this dream. We did with them a lot, over $2 billion in the last 6-7 years.
So they're providing loans to you? Right.
And we are financing projects all over Africa. We have worked together in Sudan, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Zambia, Zimbabwe, all over these countries. And really, I believe that they are main driver for us for the growth in Africa.
All right.
Whenever we go with them and discuss with them a project, they are always working with us.
Excellent. I'd like to hear from you, lastly, Ms. Patricia Poku. Plot Enterprise, tell us more about that and your experience.
Plot, we're in cocoa processing.
Cocoa processing?
Yes.
In which country?
In Ghana.
Ghana, right.
Cocoa is the mainstay of the Ghanaian economy. Afrexim, they are there to add value to African economies, and they have placed special emphasis on the cocoa sector. And rightly so, because when we think of the fact that West Africa alone produces close to 80% of world cocoa, in fact, we feed the industry. And in terms of revenue, we represent less than 10%. I mean, there's the call for actions, there's the need to do something to change the equation. Afrexim with Africoin, the African Cocoa Initiative, have committed to help the African countries achieve greater involvement in the global cocoa value chain. And we have benefited by way of funding, especially working capital for the purchase of beans. With the Afrexim intervention towards the end of 2016, we saw our plant capacity utilization go up in 2017 by 90%. For this year, barring a few hitches in the beginning of the year, we foresee a further increase of 50% plant capacity utilization. 50% increase as compared to 2017. For a manufacturing concern, when you're through, you know what the throughput does to the bottom line. So obviously, our finances have improved, and this is value.
Welcome back. In the second half of our special broadcast of the Afreximbank's panel session, captioned Living the Vision, Delivering Value, the panelists and participants share experiences working with the Afreximbank.
So we've spoken to companies, institutions that are clearly working with the Afreximbank. So I want to do this a little differently and take it to the audience, and not only for you to ask them questions, but maybe share your experience and your expectations from the Afreximbank. As we celebrate 25 years today, as an entrepreneur on the African continent, as an institution that is also looking for credit enhancements, for fresh capital, we want to share your thoughts on Afreximbank and what you're hoping it will contribute moving forward. So do we have any questions or comments along these lines?
I notice over here that Mr. Aluko from Dangote, Alake from You've got me. It's been a long day, long 3 days. Yes, but come on now, I've been standing for 3 days. Let me take a step back, rewind, and come again, yes? Dangote Group, obviously a titan across Africa, and having you here, actually, I know that Afreximbank's relationship with the Dangote Group is a very strong one. Perhaps you could say a few words about that.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Olakune Alake. I work for Dangote Group. We are having a good working relationship with Afreximbank. And I can say for a fact that without Afreximbank being part of our business, we probably would not be as big as we are today. But more importantly is that we're going forward, and we have as a strategy to go across Nigeria and go to all other African states. And we have Afreximbank along with us to achieve that objective. And one of the things I know we've started doing with them is the trade financing across Africa, which is very good, and it's also one of the mandates they have to integrate the economies across Africa. Our refinery project that we're doing right now, we're engaging Afreximbank, and they will, yes, in Lagos. I think they are, hopefully, by tomorrow, we should be able to sign an agreement for about $600 million. That shows the extent of their commitment to the game changer that will happen not only in Nigeria, but in West Africa and down the Central Africa zone. Having a refinery of about 650,000 barrels a day in an area where actually have less than maybe 60,000 capacity. Therefore, I think we would like to congratulate Afreximbank for their 25th anniversary, and we hope that their participation in the economy of Africa is very key. And we also know that given their presence, Africa has the potential. I think the doctor talked about SME the other time, and I totally agree with him, because we are looking for SMEs to support our growth. And therefore, if we are not supported, we can actually provide that level of support that the SMEs are expecting. Because for us, I can tell you, our business in Nigeria today, we have quite a number of organizations that tap into what we do. And therefore, I'll give you an example. We do our trucking business today because there aren't people who have capacity to do trucking business. That's not my business. I don't want to truck anything. I'm a manufacturer. But today I go down that chain. But if you look at the entire chain, we need SMEs to come in at various stages of our business. I think we are out there to support SMEs as well. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's great to see a senior representative from Dangote, a company that everybody knows. Perhaps you want to take, if there are no more questions, there's a gentleman over here. So who are you?
We also have one on this.
One over there. So we'll take two more and then some final thoughts.
My name is Engineer Ibrahim Usman. I'm the chairman of Spark West Steel Industries Limited, as well as the vice president of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. I must thank Afreximbank because our company is presently the only steel company producing galvanized steel towers in Nigeria. And we have prime customers like MTN, the transmission company of Nigeria, TCN, Airtel, IHS, etc. And I can tell you that we will soon be signing a $100 million facility with Afrexim to do a lot of electrification for Cameroon. This is a very important step for us because we've had serious challenges in the past, and now Afrexim has come to our rescue, and very soon it will be history in terms of our growth and performance. So Afrexim, congratulations. Please keep it up. This is extremely important what you are doing. And the sky is the limit for you if you keep going, because you are also laying foundation for other African countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Hi, I'm Kutwani, the Chief Executive Officer of Export Credit Insurance Corporation of South Africa. Yesterday I was on the panel, obviously. In South Africa, we have not really had a lot of experience working with Afreximbank. But a few years ago, we started engaging. I think it is, one may not even call it a few years ago. I think it was during the reign of Mr. John Louis Ekra, when we started engaging about the possibility of the South African government being part of the Afreximbank. And I'm happy to announce that after a very long and tiring work that we did lately with Dr. Orama, we were convinced, and we convinced the government of South Africa that we should take up shares in Afreximbank, which we did in December 2017, so we are quite new on the block. But what that has done is now to allow, because we are a state-owned official export credit agency, it has allowed us to leverage on the reach of Afreximbank, because yesterday I mentioned that South Africa trade, intra-African trade, is mainly within the SADC region. 90% of trade between South Africa and the rest of the continent happens around SADC, and only 10% with the rest of the continent. And this relationship with Afreximbank will enable us to also have outward and inward trade across or beyond SADC. I'm very happy about that potential.
Thank you very much. Let's take one more intervention and then some quick final 30-second responses from your audience, and then we'll take a break.
Okay. My name is Joe Matrimbo, the head of business development at Nedbank Zimbabwe. I don't have a question, but I just wanted to plug one hole which I saw remaining open during the discussion of how Afreximbank assists the SMEs. I want to give an example of what they did in Zimbabwe in the tobacco sector. Afreximbank provided facilities to the banks ourselves, commercial banks, to lend to tobacco merchants, which could be termed as the real exporting entity. And then through that same structure, there was a 30% which was linked directly to the farmer on the ground. And that 30% reached a total of over 100,000 farmers on the ground. But that was done now by the commercial banks, and Afreximbank funding the commercial banks in order to do that process. So you can see that there is a capacity, or there is already an inbuilt structure within the Afreximbank facilities where they can reach the SMEs via the commercial banks.
Very well identified. Okay, Wole.
All right, so we really need to round this up, but if I can just guide the final thoughts, Simon, if you can very quickly speak to what we're seeing now. So we're hearing $600 million, $100 million. It speaks to the capacity that is being built within the Afreximbank. Can you just help us appreciate what the Afreximbank can contribute going forward?
Well, I think, first of all, congratulations to all these companies that are benefiting from Afrexim facility and advisory services to enable trade in Africa. I mean, it speaks volume about where the bank came from and how much they can contribute to the economy and impact development in our continent. In the very same fashion, in the same way, Afreximbank also supported us in Guinea and Gambia. Everyone knows where Guinea came from after the Ebola crisis, where Gambia came from after the regime change. And today we're able to provide, trade line facilities to SME, women banking, LC confirmation, all of which thanks to our Afrexim facility. So I think in a similar fashion, we want to thank Afreximbank like everyone does, and we hope that one day we will also be the beneficiary of a $100 million facility.
I am sure you do. Thank you very much for that. Final thoughts?
Yeah, I think that Afreximbank should look more to see how they can, for a better way, sterilize foreign exchange risks for most of these African countries. I would want to see them do more of bonds and direct lending in local currency if they can find intermediaries to do that. Right. That would be good for the SMEs. Okay. They tend not to handle foreign exchange risk very well.
All right, so we look forward to more of the financial ingenuity within the bank. Mr. Zekri?
Thank you. Being a big player in trade finance, Afreximbank, I think, brought value to the continent, brought investment, and the way that it goes through was very difficult in the beginning. And as I was saying, it gives to us, the courage to make the same thing. And I hope that we deepen our cooperation with Afreximbank in order to be the bedrock and to pave the way of the Maghreb integration. As you know, it is always beginning by trade financing, by investment, and we know that so far we have some maybe difficulties in order to reach Maghreb integration, but through business, through investment, we can reach this. Thank you very much.
And we wish you the very best as you build that institution. Ms. Diaby, if you can speak to what the Afreximbank can do to help us see a lot more value addition, because you mentioned cocoa. We know that it's an area that's West Africa is blessed to produce. But what we want to see a lot more is adding value to that product before it's exported. Can you just speak to the potential for that?
I think there's one thing lacking, and which is risk management mechanism. For a place where the bulk of cocoa is grown, there is no hedging facility in the whole of West Africa. Cocoa is traded on the London futures market, the New York futures market, and it's very volatile. In a day, in a trading session, there could be a spread of £100, $150, and you can imagine what that represents. So if we have to compete with the multinationals who dominate this industry, we have to equip ourselves with instruments that could protect us against these market variations.
So more financial solutions. Hopefully the Afreximbank can help with that.
Exactly.
Final thoughts, Ahmed?
Yes, I believe the presence of Afreximbank really in Africa is really plus. And for us, I believe that mobile now is spread all over Africa, mobile. And now we need really to spread the electricity all over. People need to have better living, better future. So we believe very much as a company in the mini grid, and we are willing and investing in the mini grid for the next 10 years in Africa.
Afreximbank's clients, panelists, and audience participants giving clear examples showing how the bank has supported their development over the years and evaluating how the bank delivers on its core values. And that's it on our special broadcast of that panel session bit of the week-long activities marking the 25th anniversary and annual meetings of the Africa Export-Import Bank. Many thanks to you for watching. I am Christy Cole.